The Boston Red Sox gave the Cubs their little bit of tea as they prevented the North Siders from sweeping them, being the North Siders 6-1 at their friendly confines, while the White Sox pulled the steel curtain on the Pittsburgh Pirates, sweeping them 3-0, scoring double-digit runs in 2 of the 3 victories. In basketball, one former champion comes home to help LeBron and Luka trying to win another NBA championship. We'll give you those details coming up. Scottie Scheffler wins the British Open. In time permitting, we'll have old school TV Monday. That and a whole lot more. So Monday Extravaganza edition starts right now. Welcome to another fun-filled edition of Second City Sports, the Monday Extravaganza. You're locked in on, and we're live in living color right here on Sports Zone Chicago, along with Miss LaKeena McGee, which is she. I am Sidney Brown. You know it's me. You can follow yours surely on the Twitter, X, and the IG at SidKid80. Once again, it's SidKid80. That's SIDKID80. That's SIDKID80.
You follow my Keena McGee on the Twitter, X, again, the IG.
Be sure to download the Sports Zone Chicago app wherever you get your apps. Please follow Sports Zone Chicago on all social media platforms, so Facebook, X, Instagram, and YouTube. Please subscribe to our podcast. We're located at War Media Podcast. That's WARR Media, PODCASTS. We're on all podcast platforms, including the iHeartRadio app. And while you're at it, please give War Media a follow at WARR Media on all social media platforms. And thank you very much in advance for your support.
Like, share, subscribe, and tell your friends.
We're the unapologetically fun, and we have very definite opinions. If you have any definite opinion, do not 2-hour extravaganza we call a Sports Talk radio show. You can definitely hit us up at Sports Zone Chicago's Facebook page or Sports Zone Chicago YouTube. Type in those questions and comments in the comment section. LaKeena will get the up on the screen for you. But if you decide to troll and or do something silly, dumb, or stupid, I've given LaKeena full power to give you dumbos to be able to be a boot.
Toodles.
But before we begin, we must say hello to our live gang that's live, Live, live entertainment gang that's checking us out right now on our Sports Zone Chicago's Facebook and YouTube pages at 12:22 p.m. Central Standard Time. As always, much love to the replay gang that's checking us out on the replay, also on our Facebook also on our Sports Zone Chicago's Facebook and YouTube pages. Don't you ever forget our motto: whether we talk sports, music, or entertainment, we will provide.
And we'll provide you some of the best here on Second City Sports, of course, as I get myself set up here. I had to charge my laptop here. But, of course, we'll talk some NFL as training camp begins, as the Bears, the rookies are already there now. The veterans come in tomorrow, and it's like they're all over the league as well. NBA, the Hornets won the Summer League title. Yay. Speaking of actual NBA news, a couple veterans have moved to other places, and some are actually even going home in some spots. We'll talk about that too, of course. And of course, a little sports media news. Scottie Scheffler is 3/4 of the way to a career Grand Slam as he dominates at the Open Championship over the weekend. But it's his little boy that steals the show. We'll talk about that as well. And old school TV Monday, of course, we'll talk about a 70s series that you might remember, but you might not. You may not. And a great way for people to you can stream it for free. We'll talk about that too, and so much more. But first, Sid, let's talk some baseball as the Cubs win 2 out of 3 against Boston. Lost a tough one on Sunday. Yesterday, the rubber match. Of course, they weren't able to complete the sweep, but now, of course, the Brewers have won 10 in a row, and they're breathing down their necks. And 6-1 they lost. I'm talking about the Cubs lost to the Red Sox. The final there, of course. Now they did avoid this. The Red Sox did avoid the sweep. We'll talk about them after the break as they talk about baseball as a whole. But what do you think about the whole series for the Cubs, Sid?
One question I want to ask you before I answer your question: are you panicking yet, LaKeena? Are you panicking?
No. Not really. I mean, I'll say this. Look, we knew that the Brewers were going to be. Well, I don't know if those are the Brewers are over there on the phone right now, but
Or
but
Jed.
yeah, or it might be dead calling. But yeah, I mean, I'm not. I thought that maybe the Brewers were still going to be have problems, but I don't want to wish a long losing streak on them. But I kind of feel like they're picking too soon, and I think their schedule's like right in the middle. They do play the Mariners starting tonight. We'll talk about that after break. But because they start a they continue their West Coast trip. But it's sort of one of those days you're just like, yeah, there's no way they can keep this up because like I said, I mean, you're kind of Andrew Vaughn's been really solid for them ever since the White Sox traded traded him to the Brewers, but he had a couple of home runs in that series against the Dodgers, but you're benefiting from the Dodgers not being healthy right now, so they were able to kind of benefit from that. So yeah, I'm not super worried. I know that remember the Cubs and Brewers actually play each other the next couple of weeks 8 times. So here's a way to kind of get them to pull out this between yourselves and that division. Now going back to the Cubs in that sense, but I think Jed Hoyer realizes that he needs a lefty. He needs another starter, probably another middle relief, probably a third baseman as well. So I'm not panicking, but I just think that there's no way the Brewers can keep this up. But yeah, it says for the Cubs, I mean, like it'll be interesting to see like how they do because they got quote unquote the easiest schedule. We talked about it on Friday. They had the quote unquote easiest schedule left, so there's no excuse. But you got to take it one series at a time. Now they do face the Royals starting tonight. Royals have been up and down, so we'll see what they do there. But I'm not panicking just yet.
First to the series against the Red Sox when this past weekend, you saw a little bit of everything from the Cubs, like you have seen from the Men in Blue all year. We saw a little bit of the offense last Friday, thanks to Seiya Suzuki's the first inning 3-run blast, which basically put that game away. And yes, Colin Ray, who was the starter, he didn't have his best, but he did enough just to put the Cubs in great position to win that game. Last Saturday night's game in front of a national audience, the bats came out. Matt Shaw, I know people are talking about his offense, but he blasted a home run in that game. His defense has been excellent ever since he's been called up a couple of months ago. Pico Armstrong finally got back on track. He had a blast as well. Shota Imanaga, as we talked about on our show last Friday, he needed to get back to that close to that dominant pitcher that he was last year during his rookie year. He's pitched 7 innings of shutout ball, 1 walk and 5 strikeouts, giving up just 5 hits. He was very impressive. The only thing I'm concerned with Shota is he gave up that double to Rice Snyder to start the game, but he's been having issues during the first couple of innings in his starts this year. But he settled down after that. He was fine. Yesterday, Cade Horton I thought pitched well. It's just that the game got away from that bullpen yesterday, and like you said, and we're going to talk about it here in a minute. We said all season, and we're saying it again with less than 2 weeks to go for the trade deadline on July 31st. The Cubs definitely need a starter, and it will not hurt to add an extra bullpen arm.
Absolutely. Listening to see Sports on Sports Chicago, LaKeena, McGee, Steve Brown with you talking some Cubs baseball here during these next couple minutes before we go to break here. But yeah, I think we've seen it in the last in the last few weeks before the All-Star break. Yeah, they definitely need that extra starter. And another reliever, I know the bullpen's been okay for the most part, but an extra bullpen arm wouldn't hurt. You can never have too many pitchers, I say. And like I said, an extra a guy to play third base. I mean, that's really another thing. No shade to Matt Shaw, but I don't know if he's really a third baseman. So yeah, we kind of doing it. They've been kind of doing it by committee now. Like I said, even Horton had a solid showing yesterday. It was a bullpen that kind of killed them there, but the bats didn't really show for the Cubs either. If we're being honest in that game, even though they had 8, they did have 8 hits, they just couldn't get those guys across. That's another thing. So yeah, and Crochet actually pitched okay, for the Red Sox. So. But yeah, I think the Cubs, like I said, I'm not worried about them, but I think that they know that they have to do little things in order to stay there in that, they're still right there. Like I said, the schedule actually works out better in their favor. So, just make a couple of tweaks in there. You should be able to take control of this division once you start playing the Brewers.
You're listening to Second City Sports on Sports Zone Chicago City. LaKeena here with you talking Cubs baseball. We'll get to the Southside Hitmen and the rest of baseball following this bottom of the break timeout. Sticking with the Cubs, LaKeena, I don't know if you caught this yesterday during the broadcast. Jared Hoyer was a guest on the telecast with John Jami and Elise Manigo, who filled in nicely for Jim DeShays. And he started off with a special tribute to Ryan Sandberg. That's Rine for those of you scoring at home. And as I forgot who it was that put it out there on social media yesterday, but this person said that the way that Jed Hoyer spoke about Sandberg, they made the Cubs organization may know a little bit more about Sandberg's health than what they're letting on. I said to myself that may be the case, but what Jed said about Sandberg being the pioneer of Cubs baseball in the '80s and give him credit for one of the main reasons why the Cubs have a strong fan base. Of course, WGN came into people's homes in the late '70s and the early '80s thanks to a strong signal, and of course the invention of cable television. And the Cubs, of course, what they did in '84 and '89, winning the division. But when we start to see things like that, of course, John Lester, who played for both teams, he was out there. I believe he did the seventh inning stretch on Saturday. He was on the broadcast. He wore a Sandberg jersey. Of course, he's a cancer survivor himself. And I forgot who else wore a Sandberg jersey, but
Kerry Wood. Kerry Wood
yes,
on Saturday. Yeah. I think yesterday. I think it was yesterday that he wore a jersey. Well, it was Saturday. I think he wore the jersey. Of course, he over pitching as well. So it's tough. I know. Yeah, I heard like a couple of people. I think one of my Reese, a good friend of mine. I think he was the one. I think you're referring to that. That was that was saying that, hey, the way they were talking, maybe is it more? There's more to it than that, or is it really? Because we know that he's had a tough fight the last few months. We know we talked about it last year that the cancer unfortunately had spread, through his bones. So it's you hope that's not the case. Maybe they were just because his birthday. I think his birthday is just around the corner. So I think maybe they were just kind of doing a tribute to him just for that. I don't know, but we'll see if something happens down the line. But it's tough to listen to that and read that. But that was a really nice sentiment from Jed. So who knows why he did it, But it just. I know some people kind of looked at that like, oh, wait a minute, is he a little further off than we thought, or maybe just didn't want to say it, but we don't know for sure. So it'll just keep in your prayers and stuff. That's probably all I can say about that.
Now, wrapping up, going back on the field, is we talked about the Cubs need a starting pitcher, and they need another bullpen arm, which wouldn't hurt. It wouldn't hurt. It wouldn't hurt them. It would help them. Now, I heard Owen Casey, their top prospect, he was on Inside the Clubhouse last Saturday on 670 Score with Bruce Levine and David Hall. I don't know if you caught that. For those of you that missed, where to go find that podcast. But just in case that, would you give up Owen Casey if it was a starting pitcher like a Nathan Eovaldi of Texas, or Sandy Alcantara of the Miami Marlins rather, or maybe somebody else that we're not talking about right now? Okay, would you give up him? Because remember, he may be the heir apparent to Kyle Tucker if you don't resign Kyle Tucker after the season. So the Cubs, they're in a tricky position, but at the same time, they got to go forward now, because you never know if, especially in the game of baseball, that this window may not be open like this ever again.
Well, I think that's all the beauty part about trading one of your top prospects. Now, if you trade him and you don't re-sign Tucker, then you're kind of stuck. So I think. Is it really worth trading one of your top prospects for like basically a 3-month rental or 2-3 month rental? So I'm a little bit worried about doing that. So, but again, they're the professionals. I'm not. But it just seems a little bit it is kind of odd how that sort of kind of what people say that like, would you trade something? But it's crazy.
We all know what the other names are out there potentially that could go with the Cubs. So of course, Adrian Hauser from the Chicago White Sox. As I mentioned, we'll get to them after the break. Of course, Zach Gallen of the Arizona Diamondbacks. So of course, I mentioned Nathan Eovaldi of Texas, and Mitch Keller of the Pittsburgh Pirates, who the White Sox just played. And so there are options out there for the Chicago Cubs to go get a starter. But for those other names that I just mentioned, would you? They're going to ask for Owen Casey. And depends on the deal, would you put Owen Casey in their deal to go for it now? That's $1 million question.
That's a tough one. I mean, I don't know. Would you do that? I don't know. It's just like I said. It's just crazy how.
a top-notch starter like a Nathan Eovaldi or a Cantera from the Marlins, I'll probably would do it. But if it was a mid-level starter that's not box office, I probably wouldn't do it. That's just me.
Yeah, I mean, but again, like you said, like I said, I mean, do you really want to take a chance and perhaps maybe trade that trade one of your top prospects for like a 3 month rental? I know Eugenio Suarez, because he was out there in Atlanta for the All-Star break. I know his name's being thrown around, perhaps as maybe a potential trade for them. Would you? I mean, look, would you want to kind of trade him? Maybe not. I know he's a third baseman, but yeah, you definitely need that as well. So yeah, I don't know. I mean, it's tough. Remember, Jed, this is sort of this is Jed's on his last year of his contract, so I'm sure he's going to want to make a nice little splash here. Hope that the Cubs can get to the playoffs and make a deep run so that he can get himself a contract. So there's a lot of unknowns here.
Yeah, just real quick. I know we got a break for the bottom of the hour, but let's just say, for hypothetical purposes, if Jed wants to deal with the Arizona Diamondbacks, if you get solve 2 of the 3 issues in one, like you said, third baseman, starter, and a reliever, or let's just say take the reliever out of it. If you get Gino Suarez and Zach Gallen or Kelly, they definitely talking about Arizona's going to ask for Kate Horton and whoever else. I'm not going to let Arizona just completely gut my minor league system. I'll give you Orin Cassie and maybe somebody off our current roster. I think that's more realistic.
Yeah, I agree. I think if you're Jed, I think he's not going to want to trade one of his top prospects. I don't see it happening. Not for that. That it's not worth it.
But if it was a deal like that, if you trade with Arizona, you get Suarez and Gallen, I think that's a risk you should take. But if it's a mid-level player, lower-level player, I don't think so.
All right, we'll talk more about this, and also too the Sox. Bring out the White Sox. They sweep the Pirates. Can they continue? I mean, they got a tough series this week. We'll talk about that, of course, and lots of movement in the standings too. So got more baseball talk coming next. LaKeena, McGee, Sidney Brown, Second City Sports on Sports Chicago. More Diamond talk coming up right after this.
Hey, it's your boy, the Superback, Sean Sierra, and be sure to follow Sports Zone Chicago on all social media platforms. On Facebook, Instagram, and our Roku channel, you can find us at Sports Zone Chicago. And on Twitter, we are at Sports Zone Shy. Also, be sure to download our mobile app so you can take Sports Zone Chicago with you on the go.
Got it done here. Ouch! And we're gonna make sure you lit this time. Ouch! You're not gonna get me this time.
Ow, Manny!
Whoops! Let's try an easy one.
Every day, we take steps to keep the people we love safe.
But some health risks are easy to miss. Ticks hiding in the yard can spread germs, like the ones that cause Lyme disease. Mice searching for food can spread bacteria that makes us sick. Mosquitoes lay eggs in standing water and can spread West Nile virus and more. Cockroaches are drawn to water in the home, leaving behind allergens that can trigger asthma attacks. Common pests can threaten our health. Learn how to protect your family at pestworld.org.
Hey, this is Corey McGetty, and I listen to Sean and Maya on the morning show.
Welcome back to Second City Sports. So this is Monday extravaganza edition. You're locked and loaded, and we're live in the living color right here on Sports Zone Chicago. I'm Sid. That's LaKeena. You can follow yours truly on the Twitter, X, and the IG at SidKid80. Once again, it's SidKid80. That's SIDKID80. That's SIDKID80.
You can find McGee on the Twitter, X, again, IG.
We're continuing our baseball discussion for this half hour, discussing those Chicago White Sox and the rest of Major League Baseball from this past weekend. If you have any questions or comments for us during this segment about the White Sox or the rest of Major League Baseball, you can definitely hit us up at Sports Zone Chicago's Facebook page or at Sports Zone Chicago on YouTube. Type in those questions or comments in the comment section. LaKeena will get the up of the screen for you.
All right, now bring up the White Sox. They swept the Pirates, including scoring a total of 27 runs in that 3-game series against the Pirates. I know people want to say the last time they did that, sweeping a series coming out of the All-Star break was when they won the World Series in 2005. Okay, but they go down to Tampa and face a Rays team that's right there in the thick of it in the AL East, and for a wild card spot in general now. Miguel Vargas and Mike Topman each had back-to-back home runs in that game yesterday. Yeah, he actually ended up having a nice series. Topman, he could be another name that probably could be mentioned there too. Mm-hmm. He had I think he had like 8 RBIs total in that series. Luis Robert Jr. kind of kicked it off on Friday with a home run and 2 RBIs. Michael Taylor added a double that was bases cleared on that in that Friday game. So. I know White Sox fans want to hang on to something. Look, Vargas played very well in that series. Like I said, Topman played very well in that series. And so did Robert Jr. Like 2 of those 3 guys are going to be gone. So, I think they might be trying to up the trade value. So we said, what do you think about that series?
First, before I get to the series, shout out to the Section 108. Good friend of the show, Johnson Nelson from the Sox Machine in the Chicago Sportsmans. All those 3 of those White Sox groups organized a road trip over the weekend to Pittsburgh. I was following on social media. They did a great job. I know that John Schriffen got a tattoo, the 108 tattoo, with a meetup with the fans before last Saturday's game. And I know they got mentioned on the broadcast with Schriffen and Dan Plesac. So thumbs up to those 3 White Sox fans groups, as I mentioned. Great job with that road trip. Unfortunately, I couldn't join you guys. Hopefully, I'll join a road trip, White Sox road trip with you guys down the road at some point. Now back to on the field. Offense, as you mentioned, what's the name of the great game? Luis Robert Jr., it's nice to see you, buddy. Hope you can stay healthy until July 31st when Chris Getz wants to get rid of you. Mike Topman, same thing. He looked great. Michael A. Taylor looked good, both with the bat and with the glove. Like you said, Miguel Vargas Jr., where were you, buddy? It was nice to see you yesterday with that big 3-run blast in the first inning to kick off the scoring for Chicago. But I want to talk about the pitching. Jonathan Canning, I have my issues with him, but he looked great last Friday night. Last Saturday, Adrian Hauser, he wasn't at his best, but he did enough to keep the Sox in the game. Yesterday, Aaron Savali, he really surprised me. I thought the White Sox were going to lose yesterday. Aaron Savali hasn't looked that great for the White Sox. As we said, when he was acquired for Andrew Vaughn, he was another veteran guy that could eat up innings. If he did well enough, he may get moved to a continuing team. Yesterday, Savali pitched 6 innings, only giving up 3 hits, 6 strikeouts to 1 walk. He was very impressive yesterday. And with that early outburst for the White Sox offense, it helped ease things a lot for Aaron Savali. Yes, they did play the Pirates, but you got to be someone at some point, right? And that's what the White Sox did.
Yeah, I mean, they were able to take advantage of a not very good Pirates squad, and also they'd have to face Paul Skeens either. So because he pitched the All-Star the All-Star game on last Tuesday. So yeah, they kind of benefit from that. But yeah, look, I guess if you're a White Sox fan, you'll take it. So it is what it is with that. But look, I think they did what they're supposed to do. You beat a team that you're just a tad better than. So you kind of show that all your guys, Talkman, you got to think he'll probably be gone by the end of the month. Luis Robert Jr., hopefully he can stay healthy. Like you said, he can be gone by the end of the month as well. So, the guys that Savale had a nice showing too. So yeah, those are the kind of guys that you want to get your good performances from, and also stay healthy by the time next week comes. Next Thursday rolls around, the trade deadline. That way you can not get rid of, but get the guys off your hands, so that you can stock up that trade value to hope maybe you can get some of that value for all those guys I mentioned.
Yeah, and that's the name of the game for this White Sox team. Get as much value as possible for the veterans that have value, as you mentioned, like Luis Robert Jr., Mike Talkman, maybe Aaron Zavalli, and most importantly, Adrian Houser. So Chris Getz has the next 2 weeks, week and a half of calls to field from most of these contending teams. So he's going to have his work cut out from here for sure. Now, the White Sox continue their road trip. They'll face the Tampa Bay Rays at George Steinbrenner Field. That's the minor league ballpark that the Rays are playing in this year. Your pitching matchups for the series, as I said, it starts tonight. Your pitching matchup for tonight, Schomburg versus Shane Bass. Tomorrow, Tuesday, Drew Rasmussen will go for Tampa. Davis Martin's supposed to make his return for Chicago, so we'll see what happens there. It's supposed to be Davis Martin for the White Sox. We'll see what happens there. That's your pitching matchup for tomorrow. And for the series finale on Wednesday, Jonathan Cannon versus Taj Bradley. All three of the Tampa games will start at 6:35 p.m. Central Standard Time.
All right, yeah. So yeah, the early one there for the White Sox. That's good. Now going back to the Cubs, their pitching matchups for their series starting tonight against the Royals will be Ryan Brazier. I think I how you say his name. Brazier. He'll face Noah Cameron. As far as the rest of the matchups, Matthew Boyd tomorrow. No word on who they're who's gonna start for the Royals. They haven't made that announcement yet. Colin Ray, who had a nice showing late last week. He'll face Seth Lugo for the Royals. So yeah, for the Cubs case, there's no excuse why they shouldn't win 2 out of 3 against the Royals as they gear up for that second half of that of their series against the White Sox coming up this weekend. So yeah, you guys want to take care of business and do what you need to do. So should be interesting to see how both these teams fare.
Pardon my Mike Murphy, but I predict the Sox will get 1 game in this series against Tampa on the road, and the Cubs will take 2 out of 3.
I can see that happening, especially that second matchup there for the Sox. I think that I could have slid to the White Sox in that matchup tomorrow. So we'll see. Should be interesting to see what happens here. As you can see sports on Sports Chicago. LaKeena, McGee, Steve Brown with you as we talk the rest of baseball in their first weekend back from the break here. We talked about the Brewers and their 10-game winning streak. Now on the flip side for the Dodgers, they have now lost 6 of their last 8, and they're still 3.5 up on the Padres in the NL West. So I think, like I said earlier, I think the key is to get everybody back healthy. I know, Clayton Kershaw did not have his best game yesterday. I thought they were going to win that series. It would have been nice, but unfortunately, the bats for the Brewers just whatever. But yeah, I think they face Minnesota starting tonight. So yeah, so hopefully they can get back on track and use the series to do it.
Yeah, the Dodgers had a chance to salvage this series finale yesterday. I did watch some of that game live. That just came on short. Freddie Freeman got hit in the wrist area in that 6th inning by Jose Quintana, former White Sox pitcher, by the way, from years ago. For the Milwaukee Brewers. So Freddie Freeman could be out for a few days. Hopefully, it's nothing serious if you're the Dodgers. Obviously, the Dodgers have lost their rookie pitcher, Roki Sasaki, for the year. As we mentioned, the Dodgers have been having injury after injury, especially to their starting staff all year, and they haven't been able to get it going. And now that Freddie Freeman's hurt, that is really going to put a dent in that Dodgers offense. Like you said, Shohei Otani had a good series, hitting a couple of home runs, but Mookie Betts got to get it going. Teoscar Hernandez had to get it going. But like we said before the season started, it's about health right now for the Dodgers. I still think they have enough to win the NL West, which I think is going to happen. But when the playoffs are right, will they be healthy enough to repeat? We haven't had a repeat champion in the National League since the 74-75 Cincinnati Reds. We haven't had a repeat champion at all since those late 90s Yankees teams, 98 through 2000, when they won 3 in a row. So it's very hard to repeat in baseball. As we said last year, the Dodgers pieced it together, having these bullpen games. If you try to look to do the same thing this year, you're going to be out of luck.
Yep, going to be very interesting to see. I think that, like I said, I think the Dodgers need to get everybody healthy. I think that's really going to be the key. And hopefully, Freddie Freeman will be back soon. So yeah, because they really need him, because as he goes, so does that offense. Now the Padres saying that NL West, they take 2 out of 3 against the Nationals. They made it harder for themselves during that series than anything. But although with the exception of yesterday, they beat them 8-1. So we'll see how they do there. Now, San Fran, they've lost 5 in a row. You don't want to back up the Brinks truck, but you kind of have to. And the D-backs, I know they've won 4 in a row. They swept the Cardinals. I mean, let's wait another week here before we can say that they're back in it. Probably not in the National League West, but also maybe in the wild card. So we'll see what happens there.
And see, this is what happens when you add that extra wild card spot in there. You're going to have a lot of these sub 500 teams, and these teams are trying to make a late push before the July 31st trade deadline, forcing management to their hand to go make a move. And those two teams you just mentioned, St. Louis and Arizona, I think both of them are going in opposite directions. St. Louis is going down. I don't think they're a playoff team. And Arizona, they're barely trying to hang on, but I think they should sell, in my personal opinion. But this is what happens if you don't come out strong to start the second half. You may see a couple of veterans go off the team. So you mentioned with the St. Louis and Arizona, those two teams are many examples of teams that are on the fringe. I know we're going to talk about a few more of those teams that are on the fringe in just a moment. But are you really believers in both those teams? Not really. Not really. You mentioned about San Francisco. I have a little bit more faith in them. I know Justin Verlander can't get a victory to save his life, but with that being said, I think I'm giving San Francisco a little wiggle room. I know they're about 4 or 5 games still above 500, but I give them a slight chance over the other 2 teams I just mentioned.
Yeah, so it's going to be very interesting to see what happens in the back half of that division. What those teams in the back, like the Giants and the D-backs, we'll see what they try to do. In about a week and a half now, going to the NL East now. The Phillies, yeah, I'm sure they're not going to be very happy that they lost 2 out of 3 at home to the Angels. They had their chance to perhaps maybe they lost a tough one on Friday. That would have been nice if they had won that. They probably could have won 2 out of 3. But the good news is that they actually have signed David Robertson, a veteran Cubs and Sox reliever. So maybe that'll help them out in the reliever part. They might have found their bullpen guy. So we'll see what happens.
The guy is 40 years old. Bless his heart, but you're in a desperate state. You had to sign a 40-year-old.
Well, yeah. Well, I guess maybe they saw the market. I guess it wasn't very good, or they may have to give it too much. So yeah. But we'll see. We'll see what he does. I know he's been keeping himself in good shape. Now the Mets, on the other hand, they lose 2 out of 3 to the Reds. So that's one reason why the Phillies is still a half game up in that division. Atlanta now again, they're 12.5 back and kind of back at the brink struck for them. I think they'll probably be trading a lot of guys. They lost 2 out of 3 to the Yankees. We'll talk about the Yankees in a second here, but what do you think about the NL East?
Yeah, as we said last week, for the Braves, they may look to trade some guys, and their pitching has been terrible this year. And I saw the end of that game last Saturday. They gave up that grand slam to Trent Grisham, and you can say good night, Gracie, and it was over and out for the Braves. As far as the Mets are concerned, I told you that the Cincinnati Reds are coming. They took 2 out of 3. They should have swept that series yesterday, but the Mets did just enough. They did the little things just to avoid being swept, but The Mets still need bullpen help. They may get it on the way. We'll talk about the rumor mill coming up here in a second, but they still have the offense. We'll talk about the Mets with Pete Alonso, Francisco Lindor, and Juan Soto, who damn near missed a home run, and I believe that was Saturday's game. So we were talking about them winning 2 out of 3 against Cincinnati, but it is what it is. The Mets, they desperately need some help in that bullpen. On the flip side for the Reds, hopefully they get another bat. As I said before the start of the season, you're starting to see it here now. A veteran mansion has been there before, and Terry Francona will make the difference in the world. So far, Cincinnati has looked like a team that really wants to compete. Well, they're about 5 games over 500 now, so it's time for them to put another good long streak together, and I think they'll do that.
Going to the AL here, as the Blue Jays, we talked about the Giants. They swept the Giants. Put a little bit of a distance between themselves and the Yankees. The Yankees are still 3 back though, as they win 2 out of 3 against the Braves. We already talked about the Braves and whatnot. It'll be interesting to see what also too. I guess there was some stuff that happened during that series. I guess there was some sign stealing in that last game, and
you don't say.
All that jazz. Yeah, it was a little bit weird there, but at least Aaron Judge tied A-Rod for with his 351st career home run for the Yankees. To in the rubber match of that series. So but yeah, I mean, can the Yankees catch up to the Blue Jays?
I think they can, but there's another team that needs to make a move at the deadline. We talked about their 2 starting pitchers, and Garrett Cole and Clark Schmidt being out for the year with Tommy John surgeries. Carlos Rodon has done a nice job. I know Marcus Stroman did okay yesterday, but the Yankees need another starter, and they definitely need another bullpen arm. Once if GM Brian Cashman makes those 2 moves, I think the Yankees will be right back into the division race. Are they a playoff team? Yes, they're too good to miss the playoffs unless everybody goes down with injury. So the Yankees can make a move between now and the trade deadline next Thursday to get a starting pitcher. I think they'll be back in the race. Toronto, they're a hell of a team. And we've been talking about them for years as a need to put it together. They finally have put it together, but I don't think this AL East division race is over. The Yankees, if and when they make that big move by the trade deadline, they'll definitely have something to say about it.
Going to be very interesting. And now Boston, of course, they were able to avoid the sweep against the Cubs. They actually faced the Phillies. Like we said, they've got the hardest schedule in the second half. So can they keep it up? We'll see. Now, Tampa, they won 2 out of 3 against Baltimore. They're only 6.5 back in that division. So they feel like they're probably still got a shot in that division as well. So we'll see there too.
And they play the White Sox. I'm talking about the Rays. So they have an opportunity to gain a couple of games potentially. So the Rays, I know they stumbled going into the All-Star break, but they rebounded nicely, as you mentioned, winning 2 out of 3 against Baltimore. So, and they have the White Sox, so they have a chance to still make up a little bit more ground.
Now, Detroit had a tough weekend. They're still 11 up. They lose 2 out of 3 against down there in Arlington against the Rangers, but they still are up 11. So against the Guardians. So I know Detroit fans are a little weary when they have a big lead, but yeah, they have the Guardians. They won their series against the Oakland / Central California, as I call them, A's. So. But yeah, and then I know the Twins lost 2 out of 3 against Colorado. I mean, I'm not worried. Are you worried about Detroit? I know they lost a tough series. Yeah. Okay. Okay. Moving on.
and plus Tariq Skubal with his 11 strikeouts last night saved the Tigers from being swept. I want to touch on Cleveland here for a second. As I mentioned, we talked about the Mets. The Mets, if you believe the rumor mill, they are in the hunt for Emmanuel Clase, the Cleveland Guardians closer. I know that the Guardians are one of those fringe teams that think they can still make a move to get into one of those 3 wild card spots in the American League. But as I said a couple of weeks ago, and I'll say it again, yes, they played Oakland or Sacramento, as we say on this program. They beat the A's 2 out of 3 over the weekend, but I still don't get that feeling that they can turn it on and get back in the AL Central race. That's not going to happen. Can they get back in the wild card race? Maybe, but I just don't see it this year. And if you're the Guardians front office, you got to take a long, hard look of what your team's going to look like going forward. You're still going to have Jose Ramirez there, but Emmanuel Clase, their closer, he still has some value. The Mets, according to the rumor mill, they're in on his services. Also, the New York Mets. So, tough decisions heading for the Guardians front office in the next week or so.
Yeah, you wonder though. I know Shane Bieber just had a second rehab start. He has missed most of the season so far. You wonder, could he perhaps maybe be on the trading block if he can get a couple of quality starts before the trade deadline?
Yeah, that's a $64,000 question. So, as we mentioned, with a lot of these French teams on the borderline, competing for the wild card spot, they have to face reality and look themselves in the mirror and be honest. Can we get back in this race? If not, we're gonna have to start moving some pieces, some key pieces to bring some value back to replenish.
It's going to be very interesting there. Now, as far as the AL West is concerned, the Mariners 1-2 out of 3 against the Astros to gain a game. Now,
I know you're happy.
No, look, I saw, the tough loss yesterday, but Houston didn't want to get swept. So, but look, the important thing is that they did gain a couple of games on them. They can gain a game with them, I should say, during this series. That's all you can ask for if you're the Mariners. They need to get that pitching going because you saw what happened yesterday as Houston beat them pretty badly, 11-3 to avoid getting swept. So I think for me, I think Seattle needs some. I think Houston too. I think the Summers needs some pitching as well.
Speaking of pitching for the Astros, we talked about him a little bit last year. He's really improved this year. Hunter Brown, he's definitely a top 3 candidate for American League Cy Young Award behind Tariq Skubal of Detroit. Keep your eye on him down the stretch.
Yeah, I really like the way he pitches. So he could be he could be someone that could be, if anybody's going to give Skubal a run for their money to keep him going back to back, he's the guy. So for the Astros, so definitely.
Yeah, you mentioned the Kansas City Royals. They won their series finale yesterday over the Miami Marlins to avoid being swept. Still not a believer in either of these teams, but I'll go with Kansas City. I know they had Seth Lugo, like you mentioned. I believe he's supposed to pitch Wednesday against the Cubs in the afternoon series finale. Could he be making his last start? Could he be making his last start? Excuse my broken English, but could the start of Wednesday be his last start in the Royals uniform?
I mean, looking at the they're 5.5 back in the AL in the wild card. So I think a lot of these teams are going to try to position themselves in these next week and a half, 2 weeks before the trade deadline to kind of see if they can make any moves here. Now the Yankees are lead right now, then Seattle, then Boston. Rays are right behind them at a game and a half back. Texas Rays are 3.5 back. Angels are 4 back. Our buddy Chris Gelman or our other buddy Christine's Madam KFC's husband. His Angels are right there too in the 4 back. So I don't know. Yeah, that extra wild card is making teams kind of like a little frantic here, but it'll be good to see what they do this next week and a half. Like I said.
As I said, with that extra wild card spot now in each league, you have a whole lot of buyers, but not a whole lot of sellers. So it's going to be scrambling to see who's going to get the best deals for their team within the next week and a half or so.
Going into the schedule for this week, I got Baltimore and Cleveland. Speaking of the Guardians, they host Baltimore to start their series. Detroit and Pittsburgh. We'll see if Detroit can get back on track. San Diego, they continue their East Coast trip against the Marlins. Boston against Philadelphia, they start their series. Cincinnati against the Nationals. A good one here in the AL East, the Yankees and the Blue Jays. That should be interesting. The Metropolitans host the Angels, and San Francisco continues their East Coast trip, I should say, as they face Atlanta.
Finish out the rest of the schedule for tonight. The Cubs and the Royals will do battle from the friendly confines. The first game can be seen on MLB Network tonight at 7 o'clock. That's outside of the Chicago market. Oakland, as we call them, the Oakland A's of Sacramento on this show, they'll take on the Rangers. They'll be seen here in Chicago and Kansas City on MLB Network. St. Louis will visit Colorado. Houston will take on Arizona. Milwaukee will continue their West Coast road trip. They'll visit LaKeena Seattle Mariners. And the Twins will face the LA Dodgers at Dodger Stadium.
Yeah, hopefully the Mariners can do the Cubs a favor there by winning that series. But I digress. Let's see here. Anything other series that we forgot to mention? Doesn't look like it.
Baltimore and Cleveland, Tigers and Pittsburgh. Both those series start tomorrow. The LA Angels of Anaheim, they'll visit New York to take on the Mets. And and that's all the Cardinals and the Rockies. So, and those are the series that'll be starting today and tomorrow.
Your national television lineup for tomorrow. The TBS game of the week will have Philadelphia hosting the Red Sox. Your MLB regional action. You got Milwaukee and Seattle and Minnesota and the Dodgers. And more MLB Network on Wednesday, early Wednesday at 11:05. You've got Cincinnati and Washington as they finish up their series, as well as San Francisco and Atlanta, Arizona and Houston. They host Houston, wrapping up that series, as well as the Dodgers and the Twins. Your special Wednesday game of the week for Wednesday on ESPN, you got Boston and Philadelphia. And your prime video game, of course, this will be the Yankees feed as they wrap up the series against the Blue Jays.
All right, hour number 1, doors are closing shut. Hour number 2's doors will open up following these messages as you're listening to Second City Sports on Sports Zone Chicago. LaKeena, we're going to do something a little bit different to kick off hour number 2. We'll take Kevin Fish fame for the Athletics Chicago Bears survey as the Bears get ready for training camp tomorrow. We have other NFL news from the Great Iron as well. The NBA keeps digging their heels into the headlines. We'll give you the latest news on a couple of players changing teams. We'll get LaKeena's golf update from the British Open Championship, and we'll have Old School TV Monday, plus a salute to a unsung legend. That and a whole lot more. You stick and stay right here on the Monday Extravaganza edition of Second City Sports, right here on Sports Zone Chicago.
Are you ready to ride?
Hey, it's your boy, the Superback, Sean Sierra, and be sure to follow Sports Zone Chicago on all social media platforms on Facebook, Instagram, and our Roku channel. You can find us at Sports Zone Chicago, and on Twitter, we are at Sports Zone Shy. Also, be sure to download our mobile app so you can take Sports Zone Chicago with you on the go.
How do you take care of your mind health?
For my mental health, I meditate in the mornings.
I have my dogs. They're the best.
I just find ways that help me just relax.
Finding things that make me happy, like being close to my family.
I meditate a lot and read books.
I have hobbies outside of the game. I'm able to switch off. I'm able to turn my brain off from the game of basketball.
Your mind health matters.
Your mind health matters.
It's a romance sport. What? It's a romance sport like that.
Your Marine Corps' way of life is to defend the American way of life. Every day, no matter where we serve, we take a stand for our nation, for each other, for us all. The few, the proud, the Marines.
Every body in a work zone is someone's somebody.
This is my mom. She works for KDOT.
This is my dad.
This is my mom.
This is my daddy. This is my sister.
Here's my daddy.
This is my son, Scott. He was killed while working in a highway work zone. When you drive through a work zone, drive like a life depends on it. Because it does.
Welcome back to hour number 2 of Second City Sports, the Monday extravaganza. This year, a lot to load, and we're live in the living color right here on Sports Zone Chicago. I'm Sid, that's LaKeena. You can follow yours truly on the Twitter, X, and the IG at SidK80. Once again, it's SidK80. That's SIDKID80. That's SIDKID80.
You can find McGee on the Twitter, X, again at IG.
As we kick off hour number 2, discussing the Chicago Bears first in the rest of the National Football League, you can definitely hit us up at Sports Zone Chicago's Facebook page or at Sports Zone Chicago on YouTube. Type in those questions or comments in the comment section. LaKeena will get the up on the screen for you.
All right, so let's switch gears here. Talk some NFL as the rookies are already in training camp for the Bears and other teams across across the league, and the vets will be there. I believe tomorrow. So, NFL training camps will be in full swing here. And it's interesting because there have been there's some interesting news here. Of course, Noah Fant, the veteran tight end for the Seahawks, they cut him after only 3 seasons. So, could he perhaps be maybe somebody that could, someone could pick up on him? I know he's been injury prone, the 3 years he was there, but he's actually been pretty productive. So, again, we'll see if another team picks him up.
Yeah, if for his sake, hopefully a team that's on the fringe of making the playoffs already established as a playoff team will pick up his services. But I know this for sure: the Bears won't pick him up because you have Cole Kmet, you have rookie tight end Coastal Leveling, who's finally recovering from that injured shoulder. So for those Bears fans thinking, they'll get Noah Fant, he's not needed not on this roster anyway.
Yeah, so maybe I don't know who could probably use his services, but we'll see if somebody picks him up. Now, Will Levis will undergo surgery on his lower shoulder. Apparently, that shoulder was bothering him through most of last season, and it was kind of a cleanup for his long-term health, but he's going to miss all of the 2025 season. So rookie Cam Ward, well, the QB room will be him, Brandon Allen, and Tim Boyle. So, so there you go. But let's be real here. If it wasn't for Levis's mistakes, he probably said the Titans could have won a couple of those games, including that Bears open game against the Bears in that opener.
Yeah.
Nobody wants to talk about that, but I'll say it. But yeah, tough news for him though.
Yeah, I know we talked about him moving up or down in the draft when he was selected a couple of years ago, but it just hasn't worked out for him. That's why Cam Ward was selected with the number 1 overall pick by the Titans. Of course, the Titans are starting over, so this gives clear runway for Cam Ward to learn on the job, both on the field and off the field, and getting acclimated to the NFL life. So unless Cam Ward gets hurt, the show is his. So for the Titans, it's a full goal now with him as the head of the offense and the head of the franchise.
So yeah, it makes it a little bit. Ward might make the starting job. He might not. So, but yeah, this makes it. I don't want to say a little bit easier, but the pressure is gonna be a little more pressure on him to win the starting job. So we'll see. What happens there as they open up camp, the Titans.
Yep. All right, LaKeena, let's get to going back to the Chicago Bears before we get to Kevin Fishbane's article from a couple of weeks ago regarding the Bears fan survey. I was watching a couple of our local news outlets over the last 24 hours or so. As you mentioned, the rookies reported to Hallis Hall last Saturday afternoon. Some of the veterans are there now. The rest will have to report by tomorrow. I know Caleb Williams reported to Hallis Hall yesterday. Is it a big deal? Is not a big deal, or is it a big hole to do about nothing?
I mean, whatever. I mean, look, he's not the first veteran to come to camp early, so it's not like this is a new thing. So yeah, I know he was out at a putting green, in Skokie, so he was already in town anyway. So you might as well go about like an hour west and go to get ready for camp. So okay.
I think it's only important only because he's the face of the franchise. He's the number one overall pick, and that Bears roster of the 53-man roster is still a very young roster. So, uh, those players beneath him look to him for leadership, and he's one of the captains as well. So I think it was a very good move for him to report to training camp early, set that tone for the rest of his teammates, and show Ben Johnson, the new head coach, who expects a lot from him, that he's serious about his business. He's serious about getting this thing turned around. So it's going to be interesting to see once practice starts later on this week up there at Hallis Hall. How much has Caleb learned from this offense during the offseason? How much of the terminology has he gotten down in his memory bank already? Because as we're going to say this 1,000 times, folks, it's still going to be a learning process with this new coaching staff, and with Ben Johnson always getting a leg up on learning some of the players on his roster and embracing them with new concepts on offense. So it's still going to take some time, folks. So with all the mini camps we talked about, with all the off-season workouts, all the results are going to show on their field starting later this week when they officially kick off the first practice of the year.
I understand what you're saying, Steph, but yeah, okay, yeah, if you want to, think that that's the case, that's fine. But like I said, it really isn't like, okay, yeah, look, it looks good, for him that, okay, yeah, but it's not, for me, it's not a big deal. The reason why I said is because, okay, you want to come in like a day before, or, some guys were already there. Okay, fine. All right, that's fine. Look, I think for me, it's just that, like, I'm in improvement mode or show me mode with the Bears. You come in early for camp, you can come late for camp. I don't care. Just produce on the field. So for me, I think, okay, you come in a day early. Okay, good for you. That, to me, that doesn't really impress me. So that's just my opinion. But yeah, it's just like, okay, yeah, that's nice. Okay, you came a day early for camp. You're ready to go. You're in shape. All right. Okay. Okay, yeah, for me, that doesn't impress me. So okay, yeah, it's nice, it's a bonus, but for me, it's just like, okay, you came, okay, that's fine. I'm fine with it. All right, but again, like I said, do you? But like it's not. Look, him coming in early or late is not the end all be all for me. So that's just my opinion. But look, good for him that he came early. Okay.
I thought you were bust out a Trick Daddy verse for a minute. Okay. What's up? Shut up.
Oh Lord. Yeah, I tried that once. I tried that like a couple of times. My brother told me don't do it no more. Don't do it anymore. But,
I think I did it for the last time for both of us. So we'll move on.
Yeah.
Speaking of moving on, we'll talk about Kevin Fishbane, the Chicago Bears beat writer for the Athletic. He released an article about almost 2 weeks ago now. We get Julie Swiker, Gannon from the formerly of 670 The Score back in the day. We had her on a couple weeks ago now. She mentioned the article, and we didn't get a chance to give our opinions on it, but we won't go through every question, but we'll go through the important questions we believe that are important to you, the Bears fan. Regarding the Bears fan survey, and over 4,000 subscribers to the Athletic responded to Kevin Fishbane's questions via the survey a couple weeks ago. And here's some of your answers, Bears fans. We won't go through all the questions, but some of the important questions. What will help Caleb Williams the most in 2025? Ben Johnson, improved offensive line, or other? What won the most votes was Ben Johnson at 74.5%.
Yeah, especially if this offense, are we going to see something similar to what he ran when he was in Detroit? I think that's really going to be the key and how he's going to implement it. So we'll see what happens here. But I think the old line is going to be just as important, if not more important, because you got to keep them upright. And that's just, I think that's just how it is. You can have all the great coaching in the world, but if your old line sucks, none of that other stuff. The coaching does still matter, but if you can't do it on the field and execute the plays, the coaching won't make a difference.
And speaking of offensive line, it was second with 24.1% of the vote. Next question: what can Caleb Williams improve on the most from his rookie year? Out of 3,942 responses, pocket presence, situational awareness, chemistry with his targets, or big playmaking. Which won the vote? You ask? Pocket presence at over 40.9%.
There were some times when he did, held the ball too long. So, he was the most sack QB in the NFL, or one of the most sack QBs in the NFL last year. So yeah, I can kind of see that, just more better awareness. We'll see if he can improve on that, and keep him in. Like I said, keeping him upright. That's gonna be the most important thing, I feel like. So yeah, I can kind of see that being the case here.
Yeah, situational awareness came in second with 38% of the vote. How confident are you in Ben Johnson as head coach? Out of 3,941 responses, 34%. This was a rank 5 through 1, 5 being the most confident, 1 being the least confident. Most Bears fans are confident that Ben Johnson can lead the Bears back to glory at 53.2%. No surprise. Fourth most confident at 34.3%.
Like I said, I mean, they got a tough schedule this season, so it's gonna be very interesting to see like how they got to get to a good start early on, because if not, it's gonna be interesting to kind of see like where all this sort of plays down to. So again, for me, I'm in show me mode. So you can have all the confidence, but yeah, let's see how he does in the actual game setting as head coach. Talking about Coach Johnson.
As you mentioned, with that tough schedule this year, after the month of September, the first week in October 5th, I believe, they have a bye week. So after the first 4 games, I'm not going to sit here and say we're going to find out who the Bears are, but we're going to have an inkling of who they are. Because remember, they played Minnesota, Detroit, Dallas. I forgot who the other opponent is before their bye week in October. So it's a tough schedule to start with. As we said, if they come out of it 2-2, and that should set them up for a decent run to try to get over that 500 mark. But like you said, we have a long way to go. We'll see what happens there. What excites you most about the Ben Johnson era? His play calling, his demeanor, that he's not Matt Eberflus or other. What won the vote was his play calling at 56.3%.
Like I said, it's going to be interesting to see how he does, implementing this, in this office with this personnel. You brought the players in, again, we'll see. We'll see. So I can kind of, I see Bears fans' optimism, but again, like I'm in show me mode. So wanted this guy. You wanted this guy. You think he's a second coming. Okay, now it's time to prove it.
His demeanor was second and voted at 25.9%. As we said before, LaKeena, during last year and during the offseason, Matt Eberflus was clearly in over his head. He lost the locker room, and for what we read and heard and seen in limited footages from our local stations, that Ben Johnson, along with his assistant coaches, including Eric Bieniemy, the former NFL player for back in the day and former Kansas City Chiefs OC, they've been coaching the players hard, and so the players have gotten used to it. We'll see if they ratchet it up even more when training camp starts later this week. So the Bears, as we said, need coaches to coach them hard. It's worked so far, even though it's been in a controlled environment. Now with training camp starts, we'll see what the temperature is going to turn up even more to get these players back on track. What will GM Ryan Paul's best offseason acquisition was? Trading for guard Joe Thuney, signing center Drew Dahlman from Atlanta, drafting Colston Loveland, signing defensive tackle Grady Jarrett, or trading for guard Jonah Jackson. What won the vote? Not surprising here at 75%, trading for a guard Joe Thuney from Kansas City.
Not a big surprise there. I think that was really kind of led all the other stuff. You got a veteran guard who has come in and such. So, a guy that has won Super Bowls. So we'll see. But yeah, it's going to be kind of interesting, how all this whole O-line plays together. That's going to be the number one, question going into to the season and the training camp.
And what finished second with that question with 19.7% of the vote was signing center Drew Dahlman from the Atlanta Falcons. We talked about it for the last several years. LaKeena, the Bears needed a center to hike the ball. Looks like they got it now. We talked about it when that signing happened. So as you should talk about, with good health and with the timing and gelling hopefully that does happen, I think the offensive line will be good for the Chicago Bears. Next question: which new veteran will make the biggest impact in 2025? Guard Joe Thuney, center Drew Dahlman, defensive tackle Grady Jarrett, defensive end Dayo Ambagagio, or guard Jonah Jackson? What won the vote? Not a surprise. Joe Tooney with the 63.8% of the vote.
I can't say anything. I'm not going to repeat what I already said, but yeah, not surprised. I mean, like he was definitely the biggest acquisition during the offseason for the Bears. Point blank period, as they say.
Yeah, and Drew Dolman was second with the vote at 26.1%. All right, Rich, with a good rookie class, at least on paper for the Bears. Rich, rookie, are you most excited about? Colston Loveland, the tight end, wide receiver Luther Burton, the third, offensive tackle Ozzie Trapilla, who's battling for that left tackle position right now for the starter spot anyway. Defensive tackle Shamar Turner, running back Kyle Monangai, or other. Well, won the vote. Tight end Colston Loveland at 46.8%.
Yeah, because they didn't want to see they said that he's the guy that most fits what Johnson wants to run with his offense. So not surprised, but yeah, again, we'll have to wait and see. I know he's been recovered from shoulder surgery, but you say he should be ready for camp. So.
And Luther Burton, the third one, was second with the 22.2% of the vote. As I said, when they drafted him, the Bears have a bunch of possession receivers with Roma Duze and DJ Moore. You need a guy to stretch the field, and I'm excited to see what Luther Burton does in this offense. Which 2024 draft pick are you most excited about entering year two? Caleb Williams, Roma Duze, punter Troy Taylor, or other? What a shock. What won the vote at 71.1%? Caleb Williams.
Yeah, like I said, the sophomore campaign again. He can't be any worse than he was last year. So yeah, as long as he stay healthy, we'll see what he does under this new offense.
All right, which position concerns you the most? Defensive end, running back, offensive line, quarterback, safety, defensive tackle, or other? What won the vote? Defensive end at 47.2%. As I said on the show 1,000 times, I'll say it 1,000 more. Who's going to be that dance partner that's going to start opposite Montez Sweat to pressure the quarterback?
Yeah, but because we know Jarrett's not an edge guy; he's more of a tackle, or a linebacker. So yeah, so he's not, So that's really going to be the thing here. You need somebody. Could one of the young guys emerge and perhaps be that extra edge guy next to Sweat? Again, we'll have to wait and see as we get into camp.
And what second in that vote is running back at 16.5%. What concerns me, LaKeena, besides again the dance part of opposite Montez Sweat, as we saw last year, the Bears' run defense was terrible. And one of the guys that I'm gonna call out, I called out before, I'm gonna call out again. It seems to me that Gavon Dexter is on his last leg. So if he doesn't get his stuff together, he could see a pink slip and link card at the end of the year. So we talk about the Bears getting that defensive end opposite Montez Sweat, which is important. But you got to fix that run defense as well. So I'm looking to see what the Bears could do to shore up that issue starting later this week when they start training camp. Which position concerns you the least? Wide receiver, defensive back, tight end, quarterback, offensive line, special teams, or other? What won the vote at 46.1%? You ask, wide receiver.
Well, yeah, because you got a lot of depth there, of course. So yeah, I'm not surprised that won out. But yeah, it's gonna be interesting to kind of like how will this offense run and how Will's able to spread the ball out. So yeah, for me, not surprised that people aren't worried about that because you got about like 100 of them basically.
And defensive backs were second at 23.1% of the vote. This is kind of an easy question he threw out here, talking about Kevin Fishbane, but I'll throw it out here. Where will the Bears be playing in 2030? Arlington Heights, the current Soldier Field, or the quote-unquote new Soldier Field? This is an easy one. Arlington Heights, 73.5% of the vote.
Like I said, if they put a shovel down before the end of the year, hey, that's fine. But again, nothing's been official yet, so there's a reason why there's a lot of hold up here. But yeah, we'll see what if anything gets moves forward, move along, if you will, by the end of the year.
Okay, just a couple more questions to wrap up this segment. Who is your favorite Bear of all time? Walter Payton, Brian Urlacher, Devin Hester, Charles Peanut Tillman, Dick Buckus, Matt Forte, Gale Sayers, Mike Brown, Mike Singletary, or other? And of course, what led the vote was the late great Walter Payton at 42.6% of the vote.
I needed to do this research.
Again, not surprised. Like I said, when I first started watching Bears football, it was at the tail end. He had already retired. He was at the tail end of his career. So, but yeah, still not surprised he's still beloved here in Chicago.
And other was 15.2% of the vote. I'm assuming some of those votes were for Steve and Michael, who passed away, who finally got in the Hall of Fame. Of course, he'll be honored on opening night along with Virginia McCaskey before they take on the Minnesota Vikings on the season premiere on Monday Night Football. Of course, this upcoming season is the 40th anniversary of the 85 Bears team. So I'm sure some of the 85 Bears got love with the vote of other. And the last question here from the Kevin Fishbane survey: we'll reserve our opinions for this one until after August. I think you know this question, LaKeena. How many games will the Bears win for this year in 2025? After 3,943 responses, 11 or more, 10, 9, 8, or 7 or fewer. What led the vote at 46.2%? 9 victories.
I've also heard, the generational
Okay.
and all of that.
Like I said, we'll do when we do our previews and such, and later in August. But nine victories wouldn't be reasonable. Like I said, I don't think they're going to be the worst team in the division, but I'm not going to be one of those folks that say they're going to be the best team either. So the 9 sounds about right for this team this year.
And 10 wins came in second place with 25.8% of the vote.
When he was being admitted into his office,
and 8 wins came in third with 20.7% of the vote.
Years older than
Okay, yeah, I mean, like the 8 or 9 sounds about right. So, but again, we'll have to, especially with the early bye week too. There are bye weeks in week 5, especially if God forbid someone suffers a very significant injury, you won't have that bye week to kind of give you the cushion. So. Yeah, so there's gonna be a lot of wear and tear by the end of the season. So we'll see though.
Yeah, and that was Kevin Fishbane's Chicago Bears survey. If you guys missed it, check it out at the subscribe to the Athletic. Check out Kevin Fishbane's survey to see the other responses as well, because a couple of other questions that we were time limited that we couldn't get to, but very in-depth article, and so very interesting responses from Bears fans.
Nicely done, Sid. So we'll take a really quick break, of course, with our sports potpourri segment. Scottie Scheffler is 3/4 of a way through the Masters, through getting his Grand Slam as he wins the Open Championship in dominating fashion. Also, of course, we got old school TV Monday. We're going to dedicate to a long forgotten sitcom. And also, we're going to share our thoughts on the passing of a way too soon for a guy that we honored for both his shows for Old School TV Monday. We'll have that as well. Of course, sports media news and so much more. LaKeena, McGee, Sidney Brown, Second City Sports on Sports of Chicago. Our potpourri segment coming up right after this.
Hey, it's your boy, the Superback, Sean Sierra, and be sure to follow Sports Zone Chicago on all social media platforms, on Facebook, Instagram, and our Roku channel. You can find us at Sports Zone Chicago, and on Twitter, we are at Sports Zone Shy. Also, be sure to download our mobile app so you can take Sports Zone Chicago with you on the go.
Got it done here. Ouch! And we're gonna make sure you lit this time. Ouch! You're not gonna get me this time.
Ow, Manny!
Whoops. Let's try an easy one.
Every day, we take steps to keep the people we love safe, but some health risks are easy to miss. Ticks hiding in the yard can spread germs, like the ones that cause Lyme disease. Mice searching for food can spread bacteria that makes us sick. Mosquitoes lay eggs in standing water and can spread West Nile virus and more. Cockroaches are drawn to water in the home, leaving behind allergens that can trigger asthma attacks. Common pests can threaten our health. Learn how to protect your family at pestworld.org.
Hey, this is Corey McGee, and I listen to Sean and Maya on the morning show.
Welcome back to Second City Sports on this Monday extravaganza edition of Locked and Loaded, and we're live in the living color right here on Sports Zone Chicago. I'm Sid, that's LaKeena. You can follow Yosh Shuli on the Twitter, X, and the IG at SidKid80. Once again, it's SidKid80. That's SIDKID80. That's SIDKID80.
You can follow my Kid McGee on the Twitter, X, and again at IG.
This is our sports potpourri segment. So if any topics that we have discussed thus far on today's show, if you have any questions or comments about, you can hit us up at Sports Zone Chicago's Facebook page or at Sports Zone Chicago on YouTube. Type in those questions or comments in the comment section. LaKeena will get them up on the screen for you as we kick off this segment, last one for the show, by first discussing the latest news from around the National Basketball Association.
All right, some interesting news across came across the wires over the weekend. I guess the first one is that I think I don't know if we talked about it, Sid, but well, first off, congrats to the Hornets for winning the NBA Summer League title. Con Canopo, the rookie from Duke, was the MVP. Yay! So again,
didn't the Bulls win one a couple years ago?
Yeah, they did. They did. So
I'm still waiting on the grade.
Yeah, so well, I wonder where they put that trophy. I guess I don't wonder where they're going to put theirs, but
down the basement.
Yeah, Canopo had 25 points. Of course, he won MVP honors for that. So, there you go. The Clippers have made some news. Not only did Bradley Beal join them after getting a buyout from the Suns, now CP3 is making his return to the to the Clippers. Of course, he spent most of his career there with the Clippers. So, yeah, CP3, James Harden, and Bradley Beal, your big three over there with the Clippers. What thoughts?
Yeah, let's not forget about Brook Lopez as well. Instead of signing with the Lakers, because the Lakers have money issues, he signs with the Clippers. So the Clippers, they're running it back with some additional pieces, as we talked about last year. They really looked good, especially after the All-Star break when those minutes restrictions came off of Kawhi Leonard. Of course, they lost it all in that second half of Game 7 at Denver. But besides that, they had a very good year. Tyronn Lue, one of the best underrated coaches in the NBA. Now you have Bradley Beal. You didn't have to sign him for that much. He has something to prove. Chris Paul, this is his last go-around. James Harden is back, as you mentioned. The key here is if Kawhi Leonard can stay healthy and play the majority of the games for next season, the Clippers can really be dangerous come playoff time next year.
Now, well, health, that's going to be the thing for all those guys. Health's going to be the thing here for Kawhi. Like they kind of did, get the training wheels off. He did play the last 20 games. Talk about Kawhi did with no restrictions. So we'll see how this goes over there in Los Angeles. Now, speaking of their crosstown rivals, the Lakers, even though they couldn't get Brook Lopez, they did sign Marcus Smart after he agreed to a buyout with the Wizards. 2-year, $11 million deal here. So he kind of is sort of the floor general that's been missing for the Lakers. So, if you don't mind that. But, yeah, interesting move here. But, yeah, that's going to be interesting, to say the least.
Yeah, we talked about the Lakers last year needing big man help, and excuse me, and they needed someone to play defense along the wing. They got both of those players on paper, and DeAndre Ayton, of course, Marcus Smart, R.I.P. Tom Heinsohn. But with Marcus Smart, he's been laying in the wings the last couple years with the Wizards and the Memphis Grizzlies. His services weren't needed as those teams are still well, mostly more the Wizards are rebuilding and the Grizzlies kind of retooling on the fly here as well. Marcus Smart's defensive presence will make that Lakers team tougher. Hopefully, he'll bring some veteran, much needed veteran leadership in that locker room to help LeBron James and Luka Doncic. So that's a great signing for the Los Angeles Lakers. So, well, now will this carry them over to winning an NBA title? I still doubt that because tougher competition in the West alone is going to be tough. Minnesota is still going to be there. Houston added Kevin Durant via trade. Denver, you know me, even though Westbrook is gone now, Tim Hardaway Jr. They replaced him. They replaced Westbrook with him. So Denver is still will be competitive next year. So and watch out for Golden State if they can stay healthy for a full year with Jimmy and Steph Curry, they can be dangerous as well. So for the Lakers, does the move of Marcus Smart guarantees them a spot in the NBA Finals? Absolutely not. But if they can stay healthy and how long they can gel, they could definitely finish in the top 3, top 4 again, like they did last year after the trade of Luka Doncic.
It's gonna be very interesting how he fits in, and yeah, that's gonna be the thing here. Like I said, guard play was really the missing piece for Lakers last year. Maybe he can how much he can help out LeBron and Luka. We'll see. Now, the Derek Queen, the rookie from New Orleans, he's gonna miss the start of training camp after he had wrist surgery after injury to his wrist last Tuesday in summer league play. He'll be reevaluated in after 12 weeks, which is right before training camp starts. So one of the top rookies from the league. Yeah, he's already got hurt, and he's gonna be gone for at least for the start of camp.
Yeah, that's not good news. And when you a team like that is trying to rebuild and start afresh and set a culture, injuries, the things of this nature really sets the program back. And hopefully, we wishing the best and get a speedy recovery and take your time and get back out there on the court as soon as possible.
All right. There was one more thing I wanted to talk about. Here we go. Now, veteran NBA player. He's now an executive now. Valanciunas. He's now an exec for to be a Nugget. He's signed with the Nuggets, so that's gonna be interesting to see what he brings there. Kind of adding depth. That was the thing that kind of killed them last season. So yeah, what do you think about this move for the Nuggets?
Yes, another backup guy behind Jokic. We know, especially we saw Valanciunas early in his career develop with the Toronto Raptors. Not only he can rebound in defense, he's an offensive scoring threat as well. So, and he improved on that outside shot as the years have gone on. So, it's gonna be he's not gonna be the second option on the team. That's Jamal Murray's spot, but he definitely could be a fourth or fifth option in terms of scoring. Let's not forget about Aaron Gordon as well. So, your top 3 scorers for Denver are Jokic, Jamal Murray, and Aaron Gordon. But after that, you can look at Valanciunas coming off the bench, and of course Tim Hardaway Jr. So the Nuggets are recovered here nicely, at least on paper, with a well-balanced roster. So we'll see what happens. As you mentioned, with the Lakers and the Clippers, health is definitely going to be important for the Denver Nuggets as well.
Going to be very interesting in that Western Conference coming up later this year. Now, going into some of the other more NFL news, the Bengals are a little bit peeved that Shamar Stewart still is not signed as we go with the training camp. Mike Brown, the team president, says it's him. It's words, basically saying it's foolishness that the team and Stewart have not been able to agree on a rookie contract. We talked about it, Sid. I mean, I know some people say, well, maybe he can go back to A&M, but Texas A&M. But the problem is with that, he would have to go through a lawyer. Yeah, he does have 1 year eligibility left, but he has to, sue and all that. So yeah, that might not work for him, conductively. But yeah, but as he go to training camp, he's the only first round pick that still isn't signed.
Yeah, I think we talked about this on our show last Friday. Like you said, with the NIL and the transfer portal going on, like you said, he had 1 year eligibility left. You worked this hard to reach a goal, and then something like this happens, and if you really wanted to go back to college now, I just can't see. I just can't see it happening, LaKeena. I know stranger things have happened. This is professional sports, after all, but I think cooler heads are going to prevail, and I think you'll see them at camp at some point. Just going back to college, unless something really strange happens, I just don't see it. Maybe it's just me, but I just don't see it.
To be continued here, as they say, as this is Second City Sports on Sports with LaKeena McGee, sitting around with you. We do go to the links, in links golf, the Open Championship over at Royal Port Rush in Northern Ireland. It was all Scottie Scheffler, as we talked about right before we went off on Friday. He got the lead and never gave it back, and sure enough, he didn't. He won the Open Championship by 4 shots over Harris English. Chris Gutterup, as we talked about, though, said actually this is actually his highest finish for major, minus 12. He got a nice $1.1 million. Wyndham Clark, Matt Fitzpatrick, Hong Tong Lee, that was great for China golf there. Robert McIntyre, Xander Schauffele, Rory McIlroy, let's see, and also Bryce DeChambeau, who's now on the Ryder Cup team, of course, with that great performance. If only he had not had that 78 on Friday, he probably would have been up there with Scheffler in the final pairing on Sunday. Corey Connors, he's been to finish the top 10. This is the second top 10 of the Open Championship. Russell Henley and Brian Harmon, those are your top 10 there. But yeah, it was all Scheffler after Friday. He joins Gary Player, Jack Nicklaus, and Tiger Woods after having won the Open, the Masters, and the PGA Championship before turning 30. He doesn't turn 30 till next month. And so and also too, I know people want to make parallels between him and Tiger. 1,197 days between majors. Of course, Scheffler also won his first major Masters. Then, of course, 1,197 days later, he wins the Open Championship. Kind of the same thing happened with Tiger in the same parallels. The PGA Championship is sort of like a different. I think because I think, of course, Tiger, of course, the PGA Championship was in September, and then when he won it, but sort of the same thing. We get parallels here, but kind of interesting. But yeah. He'll have a shot to go for it for the U.S. Open next year over at Shinnecock. That's in upstate New York. But what did you think about the tournament, Sid?
The only part is we talked about before we broadcasted the show. The only part that I saw live was Scottie's young son calling to him, "Daddy, Daddy, Daddy." He was, come to Papa. He started crawling the other way, but it was also a moment between him and his young son and the rest of his family. And what I wanted to bring up to you, besides that, was I talk about it here. I asked the question all the time on this show: who's going to be the future of men's golf, USA tennis? But who's going to be the face of golf? Because Tiger Woods, he did something that we've never seen before, especially with a man of color. But with Scottie Scheffler, he's doing some things that Tiger is doing, that Tiger did in his prime. When you have a lead going to the final day, you figure out a way to close the door and separate yourself from the rest of your opponents. And that's exactly what Scheffler did. Now, we talked about this too, LaKeena, weather being a factor because it was raining off and on last weekend, especially with most usually. LaKeena, can you tell me when rain hasn't been a threat at this time of year when that tournament has taken place?
Yeah, the weather. The rain kind of stayed away a little bit. I mean, there were some sprinkles here and there early Saturday, but it was gorgeous yesterday. So weather really didn't really become an issue here, and that's why we saw the scores that you saw. Not just for Scheffler, but the rest of the field there. Minus 17. That's a rarity in the Open. So the fact that weather was not an issue, I think that's. That kind of shows that, look, these guys are able to take advantage of it. And, it's going to be interesting to see what happens down the line. Of course, you've got the FedEx Cup, which starts this weekend. Also, after that, you got the Ryder Cup, too. So there's going to be a lot of busy times in golf here. But, now the majors are all over with. But, Scheffler winning winning his first Open Championship. I kind of put things into perspective. I know some people say, oh, well, he's one of the top golfers in the world. Of course, he's going to say that. Well, I don't really get that vibe from him. I think he kind of like just goes with the flow. He's sort of not necessarily all shucks kind of guy, but he kind of like just like said, goes with the flow and such. So I think for me, I think with his thoughts, of course, you saw his little son Ben, as you mentioned, said he kind of stole the show there. You saw his wife Meredith; they've been together since they were in college. You saw his parents. They made the trek as well. So yeah, I mean, just a really good family to kind of keep him humble. I think that's kind of where he gets that from.
And also, too, we talked about just the course itself being a tough course. We saw Tiger Woods have some success in some years at the British Open with that tough courses, and we talked about it just a second ago. But adding the element of weather, as you mentioned, it wasn't a factor yesterday. But just looking at that golf course, it's just a tough course. Whoever comes out of there alive, you got to give them a little bit more credit than usual.
Yeah, absolutely. We don't when it rains, the scores would have been a whole lot different. You're lucky if you get like a 200, but yeah, since the weather wasn't an issue, they were able to saw the scores of all those red numbers. So
yeah,
look, it'll be interesting to see what happens next year. There'll be going to be a Birkdale in Scotland, Royal Birkdale. So we'll see if Shefty can go back to back, and perhaps maybe he'll have all 4 Grand Slams by then. We'll see, but I think this is definitely I don't want to say it's Scottie Scheffler's world that we're just living in it, but you still got there have been guys that have won Grand Slams. DeChambeau has won this year, of course. Rory got his Grand Slam. So Justin Rose, he was right there too. He's tied for 16th. Ricky Fowler, got to think he might be due for one at some point. Robert McIntyre, he did second top 10 at a major. So yeah, I think it's definitely there for year to see. So it'll be interesting to see what happens next year.
All right, you listen to Second City Sports Zone Chicago City. LaKeena here with you as we take you down the home stretch of today's program, the Monday Extravaganza. Sports media news, you have some nuggets for us there. I know you teased it before the break. What can you report for the lovely people?
Let's see here. I'm trying to find them. Well, some news, some history made here over at the HBCUs. Ty Floyd, I'm hoping I'm saying her name right. She becomes the first full-time female football voice over at the HBCU school. She actually is an FA&M grad, a Florida A&M grad. She'll be doing it for Alabama A&M this year. You might be seeing her a lot in the next few years at other places, but yeah, because I've seen her work. She's a terrific reporter, does sports and such. So yeah, I just want to give that a shout out there as well.
Yes, congratulations and thumbs up from both of us here at Second City Sports Zone Chicago.
And there was something else but I can't find it. Darn it, though. This might just, of course, the awful announcer website is just acting weird as sometimes. But yeah, I mean, there was a teasers for that new documentary featuring, of course, Jerry Jones, and I think we talked about it for a little bit. But I'm interested to see what happens here. But yeah, what did you think about that? Did you see the trailer? What did you think? It'll be aired on Netflix.
Like I said, I saw a little bit of the trailer. Like I said, we talked about it. It's interesting. It will be interesting to see how deep Netflix and NFL Films goes with this. As we talked about before, excuse me, that Jerry Jones is an attention seeker. He's a man that loves to be in control. He's a great businessman on one hand, but on the other hand, there's some things that you can question here and there. Just like we talked about with the Jordan documentary in Last Dance, following the Chicago Bulls for that 98 season. They talked about everything that went on in Jordan's career, both the good and the bad. Let's see if that angle applies here with that new Cowboys documentary.
Gonna be very interesting to see what happens here. Now, do you got any other sports media news before we move on?
I just want to say one more time, congratulations to Section 108, the Chicago Sports Bums, and the Sox Machine, and friend of the show, Joshua Nelson. He organized a road trip for White Sox fans. Over 180 White Sox fans made the trip to Pittsburgh this past weekend. Some flew, some drove from Chicago to the Pittsburgh area to enjoy the White Sox sweeping the Pittsburgh Pirates. And John Schriffen got a tattoo from one of the White Sox fans. He showed it during the broadcast last Saturday. So we talked about the White Sox doing a lot of bad things out with the baseball ops, but they usually get it right with the marketing and whatnot. But this has nothing to do with the White Sox organization. It has all to do with the three fan groups I just mentioned. So thumbs up to all three of those White Sox fan groups. So they did an outstanding job. John Striffett and Dan Plesac shouted them out on the broadcast throughout the series last weekend. And just to bring up the broadcast one more time, LaKeena, with Dan Plesac, he wore the same. I don't know if you saw it, but he wore the same White Sox polo all three games against the Pirates, and of course, the White Sox swept the Pirates. Will he do the same thing again tonight against Tampa? If so, he should until they lose.
He should. I guess so. I mean, they're 3-0 since he started wearing that. I know he's going to be doing it again since they're still on the road. So I like no shade to Steve Stone, but I like Plesac. I mean, I think he's of course he was a great starting pitcher in his own right for about 13 years now. He's done a great job at various spots doing television. I think I like the vibe he has with Striffen. So again, there's no shade to Steve Stone. Love Stoney. Look, that we grew up with Stoney, but again, I'm glad that they're giving him an opportunity to kind of, freshen the broadcast up a little bit. And look, whatever quirky things that Striffen does, Plesac's more open to it. We know Stoney's a little more like, straightforward, baseball.
Yeah.
He'll do little things every once in a while, but most of the time he's more baseball. So I think they're better together. But again, that's just me.
Yeah, I think a lot of Sox fans will agree with you. Steve Stone, perhaps the best baseball television analyst of all time. Like you said, we grew up watching him with the Cubs. Of course, he joined the White Sox in 2008, and he's been here ever since. Both radio. He started out the first year in radio when they won the division in 08, and of course, he went to television a year later, and he's been on Sox TV ever since. But John Striffen, of course, he's in his mid to late 30s, and Dan Plesac, I believe, is in his late 50s, mid to late 50s. And so, with the pop culture references of them digging at each other in a good way, back and forth, I enjoyed it personally. I know I heard in the interview years ago, Dan Plesac, who also works with MLB Network, he's been there since the network launched in 2010. He said that he always wanted to do a team broadcast from the booth. Remember, before MLB Network, he was doing pre and post for the old Comcast Sportsnet when they had the Cubs with David Kaplan back in the day. So I was pissed when he left Chicago, but he had to go to a different opportunity, and he, as the kids would say, he blew up there in a good way. So what's Dan Plesac's future with MLB Network? I don't know, but should he lose MLB Network? I'm not saying he is. I don't know. We just, hypothetically speaking here, but
spitballing.
You're right. But should his future with MLB Network being down, he has a bright future being a full-time TV analyst for the Chicago White Sox. Because you can tell he really enjoys it. And I don't know if he caught this. Yeah, I don't know if he caught this, but he talked about, of course, he grew up in Northwest Indiana. His favorite player was Harold Baines. I don't know if he caught that story.
Yes, I saw. Yeah, I've heard him mention it before. I that. I think he mentioned it. I think in various interviews that he's done over the years that he grew up in Northwest Indiana. I think he grew up in Maryville, if I'm not mistaken. And like I said, growing up, he loved the White Sox, and his favorite pitcher was Harold Baines. So he liked his how Baines was a little bit his quirkiness too. So he was actually pretty quirky. It still is pretty quirky if you look at him now. But yeah, so that's kind of like he followed him and such. I think he left because his daughters, I believe, live out east. So and I think one of them lives in Florida too. I think he just became a grandfather again for the second time. So I know he likes to travel back and forth. I know that kind of keeps him busy and such. But yeah, I hope he does. Look, he does work with the Cubs as well. He does some games with them too whenever JD is off. So I know he loves doing it. I know he loves working with both Chicago teams. So yeah, I think he's willing and able to always call games for them, especially. So he'll have another shot to do it this week with the Rays.
Yeah, so I think it's without a question, unless something strange happens, that Plesac will be back as part of the broadcast team next year. But if and whenever he goes full time, I think that'll be a great move for the Chicago White Sox. Him and Striffen work great together. The chemistry is just untouchable, in my opinion.
You are absolutely right. So we'll see what happens there. As I can see, sports on Sports News, got LaKeena McGee, Sidney Brown with you here. Now, again, I didn't watch the WNBA All-Star game. I know people are going to be yelling at me about it, but Nefessa Collier had 36 points as she led her team over Team Clark. Of course, Caitlin Clark is hurt, so But yeah, 36 points by Collier, the most by any player in the All-Star history. So yeah, I mean, I want to see what the ratings are since there was no Caitlin Clark. I want to see what the ratings are. We'll probably get that to like maybe tomorrow, later today, or maybe tomorrow. So, but yeah, I didn't watch a single minute of the WNBA All-Star game. Sorry.
I know they had the protest too, wearing those T-shirts. Pay us what you owe us. I know they're in the CBA, I believe, is up after this year.
Yep.
I'm all for people protesting peacefully, but I don't know if that was smart. I know that the league's been losing money up until through last year. And I know they're starting to turn a profit a little bit because of the impact of Caitlin Clark, and people is finally starting to get interested in watching the league. I know we had 2 new franchises this year with the Golden State franchise and the Toronto franchise. I know they got a couple more on the pipeline in the next few years, but I don't know if that was the smartest way to go about it. Get us the WNBA All-Star game. A lot of folks are watching, perhaps ever. We'll see, like you say, we'll see what the ratings are within the next day or two. But I don't know if that was a smart way to go about it. And like I said, pay us what you owe us. I'm all for people getting paid respectfully and fairly for the amount of work you put in. Don't pay people just to do little stuff, but a little effort. But no disrespect to the players, but your league's been losing money ever since it started. And now it's starting to turn a profit a little bit, but still not enough. I know people want to say, Wilson, they got the television contract, which they'll probably sign back with ESPN and some of those other networks, and they'll get some of that money that way. Yeah, but here's the thing: the WNBA plays half the schedule than their male counterparts, so they're not going to get as much as the NBA. That's just a matter of fact. And even though more people are watching this year and last year with the impact of Caitlin Clark, some of the sniping and the slick comments I've been hearing and reading about, keep that crap behind closed doors.
Yes.
If it wasn't for Caitlin Clark, some of y'all wouldn't, and no disrespect to the other major stars in the league, but if it wasn't for Caitlin Clark, you wouldn't get the proper respect that you deserve. So keep that crap to yourself, hang in there, and eventually you'll reap the benefits of and the respect that you richly deserve, not just financially, but for what you've been putting into this game as well. So all the silly sniping and the slick comments about Caitlin Clark, just get over yourself. That's just me.
Yeah, I mean, but to be fair though, I think I can kind of understand why a lot of them kind of feel that way. Is because I've been, some people say, well, look, I've been, working my butt off and played this league for 10, 12 years, and this young lady who comes out of nowhere, didn't even win a national championship, but yes, she's I get it. Yeah, maybe not the way that they want to go about it, but it's sort of one of those things where you're just like, I don't know, but again, we'll see what happens here. I know, but you gotta think there are gonna be some of those are gonna say, well, if the league somehow does there is a work stoppage, I don't think anybody will lose sleep over it, unfortunately. So it'll be interesting to see what happens here with that. I think the way to go about it, that's not how you're not going to win a lot of points with people protesting. That's just because if you're the men can't get away with that, the NBA players can't get away with that. And we know NFL players, they're going through their own issues with at the top of their players, reps, their executive presidents and such. So we won't get into it.
Yeah.
Just Google's your friend here. But yeah, it's just like you got to be kidding me. But yeah, you're not gonna get away with that. Like, it's all about getting there's a time and place getting your point across, and it's just just awful how they went about it.
All right, you're listening to Second City Sports on Sports on Chicago. LaKeena here with you. We will close out the show with Old School TV Monday, but first, breaking news came across about a couple of hours ago, early in our show. Producer, actor, and pioneer, entertainment pioneer Malcolm Jamal Warner passed away at the age of 54 from drowning. And I just, like I said, I saw the news as we were, into our show. And you talked about how we paid tribute to both the shows. The Cosby Show earlier this year because it was their 40th anniversary of making their debut on television. And of course, last October we did the UPN show Malcolm and Eddie. Malcolm and Eddie. But we do these because we love these shows, and we had to give people their flowers while they're still alive with us on Earth. But just saw the news today, LaKeena, about that. I was heartbroken, to be honest with you. Of course, we remember him from the Cosby Show in the famous scene that he had with Bill Cosby in the very first episode. Heathcliff was trying to teach him about life and doing the best you can in school. Of course, he went on to graduate high school and graduate college. Of course, he had his short-lived show on NBC. We'll get to that at some point here on Old School TV Monday. But Malcolm Jamal Warner was a pioneer. He made America laugh. He made America think, and he was a very versatile entertainer, and that's something that they'll definitely be missed. And his contributions to the entertainment game, as the kids would say, will never be forgotten. His legacy will live on forever. And we thought that, not to ramble here a bit, but we truly thought that we were going to get a true reunion of the Cosby Show. Unfortunately, it's not going to happen now. Unfortunately.
Yeah, it was unfortunate. The suspicion of this was a little bit, kind of wild here because of, I guess it was a suspicious drowning. To say it's I don't want to go into conspiracy theories and such, but
Right.
it just seems the whole thing just seemed a little bit weird here. But so definitely a rest in peace to him. And he was on The Resident. For those who it's a medical series on Fox. He was just on there. He had a recurring role on that show. Luther, Jeremiah, I should say, with Luke Perry, of course, late great Luke Perry. He did that for about 3 seasons on Showtime. But definitely tough news here for us. But rest in peace to Malcolm, and just awful news coming out of there. I know I've seen people post some tributes and such. So just a tough news to start off the week.
Yeah. And I'll just scrolling through here on Twitter X. As you mentioned, Malcolm Jamal Warner guest starred on many TV shows, and the clip I just saw here just now. Remember, he was on I believe it was the second season of Fresh Prince. He dated Hillary Banks, played by Karen Parsons. That was one of my favorite episodes. And so that was a classic moment for that show as well. So Malcolm Jamal Warner, as I said, his legacy will never be forgotten. And we talked about all the other characters being just as important on the Cosby Show. His is right up there as well. He's obviously in the team photo.
Going to be interesting to see what NBC does. During all that, I'm going to see what they do, because remember, they're going to be celebrating their 100th anniversary coming up next year and next TV season, and they may not. We'll see if they might. I'm sure they're going to get criticized for not mentioning the Cosby Show. So I'm hoping that they mention that at least. Hopefully they'll have the surviving members there. I don't think they were gonna, I don't think that some people were going to be there anyway. I won't, divulge on who, but they probably were going to do that. But So it's just awful news, like I said, to start off the week.
Yeah. So peace and love to Jamal, to the Malcolm Jamal Warner family during this very challenging time. All right, LaKeena, we got a couple minutes left, and we usually close out Mondays with Old School TV Monday. We'll on kind of be note from air from 1974 until the summer of 1978. I'm talking about Chico and the Man. It was an American sitcom that starred Jack Albertson as Ed Brown, aka the Man, the owner of the rundown car garage in the East LA neighborhood. And Freddie Prinze Sr. until his suicide in the 3rd season, he played Chico Rodriguez, an upbeat and optimistic young Mexican American who comes in looking for a job. It was the first American television series set in a Mexican American neighborhood. Albertson won an Emmy as the best actor in the comedy series in 1976.
Yeah, that was one of the few that they won for that show. And look, I think Chico the Man, was definitely groundbreaking because it was one of the first shows to feature a Latino, mostly Latino cast. Especially with the lead playing lead, and Freddie Prinze Sr. It was set. It was kind of set. It was from the producers of Sanford and Son. So they kind of like used the same aspect of that. He was in a junk. His show was, the show was set up in a junkyard as well, and kind of a similar situation there. Of course, Some of the other players, of course, Charo made some appearances on the show. Scatman Crothers, if you guys know, he was a staple in television back in the 70s. Della Reese played Della Rogers.
Yes.
And I think we talked about before we started, said that she didn't get much due for doing that show. And it like I said, it aired for 4 seasons. It did air for a little bit after Freddie Prinze committed suicide, sadly, during the third season. It stayed up there for a little bit, but you can kind of tell that something was definitely missing. It only lasted, I think, it lasted the full 20 episodes, but you can tell that something was missing once he passed away. So
they replaced him with that little kid, and I know he tried to bring light to that show, but it was just a tough position. I know the producers wanted to cancel it right away, but NBC squeezed out another couple years of that show. Other notable guest stars that appeared on this show: Jose Feliciano, the singer who performed the theme song. He starred as singer cousin Pepe Fernando. Cesar Romero, Tony Orlando. Yep. I believe that episode's on YouTube. Sammy Davis Jr. as himself, Shelley Winters, Jim Backus, George Takei, Bernie Koppel, comedian Joey Bishop, Rosie Marie as CB radio enthusiast, whom with a lonely Ed connects on New Year's Eve, football star Rosie Greer, and Penny Marshall as a waitress.
Yeah, this is a little bit before she got Laverne and Shirley, so this is like a little bit before that. So, again, it was like one of those shows that, it definitely doesn't get its due. I'm glad we're getting a little bit of love here. And if you have a smart, whatever smart device you got, smartphone, smart TV, if you got Tubi, and it's free, folks, you can watch Chico and the Man. All four seasons are on there, so you can guys check that out, and it's for free.
Yes, and so this week's edition of Old School TV Monday, we salute the 1970s NBC sitcom Chico and the Man. LaKeena, take us home.
You can follow McGee and McGee on the Twitter, X, and IG.
You can follow yours truly, Sidney Brown, on the Twitter, X, and the IG at SidKid80. Once again, it's SidKid80, SIDKID80, SIDKID80. Be sure to download that Sports Zone Chicago app wherever you get your apps. Please follow Sports Zone Chicago on all social media platforms on Facebook, X, Instagram, and YouTube.
All right,
please subscribe. Please subscribe to our podcast. We're located at Ward Media Podcast. That's WARR Media, PODCASTS. We are on all podcast platforms, including the iHeartRadio app. And while you're at it, please give Ward Media a follow at WARR Media on all social media platforms. And thank you very much in advance for your support.
Like, share, subscribe, and tell your friends.
Be sure to catch Second City Sports live in Living Color every Monday, every Friday from 12:15 to 2:15 p.m. Central Standard Time right here on Sports Zone Chicago. One more game, as the kids would say. Be sure to catch Second City Sports live in Living Color every Monday, every Friday from 12:15 to 2:15 p.m. Central Standard Time right here on Sports Zone Chicago.
Of course, you can catch Sports Zone Chicago anytime, anywhere on the Facebook and YouTube channels. You can catch replays of our show, Sean Sierra Sports, the Smoke Fellas, and so much more. You can catch Sports Zone Chicago's great content anytime, anywhere on the Sports Zone Chicago's Facebook and YouTube channels.
And we will provide.
All right. Look, if you want to catch some old episodes of The Cosby Show, you can do that, as well as a tribute to Malcolm Jamal Warner.
I'm sure TV One's going to do a special marathon, I'm sure.
Oh, yeah, I'm sure they will. I'm sure later, if not tomorrow, definitely later this week now. Mm-hmm. Of course, you can enjoy the WNBA is back at it tomorrow. I believe the Sky plays the Lynx tomorrow on the road, so you guys can check that out if you want to. Of course, you got baseball, you got training camp going to full swing in a couple of days here. So a lot coming up. So gearing up for the seasons. The various college football. I know some conferences have already having their media days as well this week. So
I think the Big Ten is one of them too.
Yeah, I think they're doing it in Indy. I think they're not doing it here in Chicago, unfortunately. That's another conversation. I'm not gonna go into tangent about that. But all this stuff is gearing up. So things looking up here, Sid. Football's is gonna be starting soon. So I love this time of year. So for Sid, I'm LaKeena of Second City Sports on Sports of Chicago, and we'll see you guys on Friday.
Go Sox and Bears. Holla!